Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yep, thank you for joining again.
Yeah, and Mom, I did want to ask, how are you doing today?
I am doing fine. Brandon, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. And Mom, I heard that we're doing another discussion of the Connors.
Yes, we are. We are counting down the episodes that are left until the season finale. So, yes, we are doing another episode of The Connors.
Yes, this is episode 108, titled Fame, Flying Fist, and Cold Feet.
Okay. And let's see, let me give you a little bit of synopsis of the episode. As we kind of discussed ourselves last week, or at least we're just discovering, that the Connors tends to have, just not two plots like every other show. They tend to have multiple. And in this case, for the most part, they have three plots each season for most of the episodes. And so anyway, for this particular episode, the Connors watched their TV debut on Restaurant 911, and they all have commentaries about themselves as they watch. However, Becky kind of thinks she's the star of the show and decides to become a social media personality, and so that's what happens on plot one. Plot two. Ben and Darlene are still not connected together, at least physically. They're not even in the same house. Ben is actually spending the night at whatever location he is, trying to fix the magazine. And Darlene ends up going to a bar and she bonds with a guy at a bar. She also gets in a fight too, but she bonds with the guy at a bar. And then the other storyline that goes on is that Dan introduces Jackie to the lawyer who he thinks can help with the case in regards to Roseanne. And but later finds out from Jackie that Dan actually needs to be the one to take the lead just because Dan was married to Roseanne. And so those are the three plot points that are kind of discussed in this episode.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
Yeah, and as you were mentioning, this episode does resume back with the Connors sort of tradition of having multi-layered episode happening, so to speak. For lack of better terms, as well as the title in this case with three different things sort of going on. And Mom, out of the three things that happened, what would you say is the strongest sort of plot that happened in this episode?
Well, I think for me, the strongest plot really has been in Darlene, because this has been going on for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 episodes. It kind of ended this way last season when you and I discovered that Ben had just been missing. And then, of course, they started this way this season. I know that Roseanne is supposed to be probably the lead in regards to, Jackie and Dan trying to get, additional money or money itself in regards to her death. But to me, Ben and Darlene are the ones to stand out as the lead of the episodes so far because it just stands out that Ben's not there and there's not a reason why he's not there.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that the absence of Ben and the sort of wandering of Darlene, I think, sort of overshadows much of this plot of this episode. Although I would say the plot that I most enjoyed out of this episode would have to be the Becky plot, though.
Oh yeah, no, out of enjoyment, yes, I truly enjoyed Becky because that was the comic relief in all of it.
Yeah, but as you were saying, I feel that this season thus far is trying to, I guess, wrap up the story with focusing heavy on the suing to sort of avenge Roseanne plot while also trying to handle the whole Darlene and Ben situation with some other miscellaneous plots that sort of just tie into it. And we just have a lot of stuff to wrap up in just 6 episodes and now only 4 remaining.
Yeah, we have a lot of episodes, and I mean, they've got some extra stars that they've added in. And at this point in time, when you're trying to wrap up a series, I'd rather not have the stars and just kind of do the family thing that I think they need to do at this point to wrap it up. For example, Mark wasn't even seen on this episode, and we know Mark has a large storyline in regards to wanting to go to college and then being, a hacker, a computer hacker at this point. Harris was there. It was nice to see Harris, but I kind of hope that they are together again as brother and sister before the series ends. And so I'd rather not see the extra people on here and rather kind of deal with the plot at hand.
Oh, I 100% agree. Especially because things aren't looking too well for the whole, yeah, Ben and Darlene situation. I mean, as I mentioned in last week's discussion, is that we spent the first, what, 3.5 seasons of the series, or I guess the first 4 seasons of the series, trying to build up the relationship after Darlene repeatedly sabotages any attempts of having a relationship. They had a very peaceful season 5, and then Ben just sort of disappears at the end of season 6. But like, attention wasn't really called to it. I think it wasn't something we're supposed to really pick up on. But now uh, his absence is evident, and Darlene is making friends with Chad.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't like the direction that they're going with Darlene and Chad. I mean, I know it was just one episode, but hopefully it doesn't lead anywhere. I kind of would like, I'd like that, Darlene is happy with Ben or was happy with Ben. The storyline about that magazine for me is absolutely silly in regards to that. Not a lot of magazines are made now. Yeah, for me, it just seems kind of absurd to have even to have a to have a storyline about a magazine in regards to especially hardware at this point in time when that doesn't really exist. I don't know. So I would have preferred if they were going to go in a different type of direction, they would have picked a different reason.
Yeah, and while I understand the sort of, yeah, Ben wanting to follow his dreams and do the hardware magazine, I'm not entirely sure as to why they had to get a whole office for it and a storefront. That seems a little strange, especially given that from what we've seen in the Connors, usually Darlene is sort of the evasive one, not Ben. So I'm I'm hoping that this isn't leading in the direction that I think it's leading in, but which is like sort of like their breakup or something. I mean, especially with such short time that I said that we have remaining.
Yeah, same here, same here. Well, and hopefully, like I said, I have been happy with Becky and what they're doing with her. And so, so at least for comic relief purposes, I am happy to see that they do have a storyline that does make me smile.
Yeah, and I don't remember. Did we get Louise in this episode?
I don't remember Louise in this episode. I'm not saying she wasn't, but I don't remember Louise in the episode.
Yeah, and Mom, I know, like I said before, we have 3 different plots going on in the episode, and they have recently released the titles, not the descriptions, but the titles for the final 4 episodes, and 3 of the 4 remaining episodes continue on the trend of having, numerous plots listed within the titles, but I'm a little concerned for 2 episodes from now, where it has 4 different things happening in the title of the episode.
Oh gosh, 4 storylines at one time. What are we going to do, Brand?
Yeah, especially considering that one is titled Danny Boy, The Interview, The New Hire, and The Hanging Chad.
Oh, good, great. Oh, Chad's still in it. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm a little disturbed by that.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to what they're going to do with it, but the final 2 episodes look like they're both airing together on April 23rd.
Okay. Well, good to know. I'll be there watching, and I know you will too.
Yeah. And I did want to ask too. So, what do you want to see within these final, 4 episodes? I guess 3 weeks of the Connors.
A lot of tying up of plots. I want them to finish up Mark's situation. I want him to go to college, to be free of the hacking. I need for Darlene and Ben to be happy together. I know they're not going to have DJ back, but it would have been nice if DJ had just been able to come back at least to finish it off, even if it was just to visit. I want Dan to be happy along with Louise, and then who's left? Becky. Well, Becky and Beverly Rose, I think they're fine together. And I do like Tyler. First I was a little evasive about him, but Tyler I'm fine with. And so, I just kind of want them to bring it all together. And I left out Harris, poor Harris. I like that Harris is at working at the restaurant now, and I think they can leave her there working at the restaurant because she seems to be doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely fully agree. I definitely, well, from what I've heard, is that not everything will go into a nice little bow per se at the end. Is that I do hope that it's at least a satisfying ending. I know the whole reason the show came back to begin with Roseanne season 10 was to end out the franchise with a better ending than the whole lottery thing at the end of season 9. I just hope that this is also a worthwhile finale. Especially considering the whole reason was to make a better finale than the first one.
Well, at the rate they're going right now, they might have the same thing go on again because if Dan wins all this money, then in essence they have hit the lottery again. So they might end the same way. I'm just hoping they wrap up the other storylines.
Yeah, and out of pure curiosity, so I know Jackie has mentioned Neville a few times. Do you think we're even going to see Neville win this final season?
If we don't, I'm okay. Um, you know, Neville to me is the character that he's there, but that's not there. I've really never paid attention to Neville. Sorry about the guy who plays him, but I never really paid attention to Neville. The other characters stand out more.
Yeah, I feel like what the Connors has done for the show is really interesting in that it's always sort of kept to its core. And even when new people sort of join the family, that doesn't necessarily mean they join the core. Like I think about like Louise, who is pretty frequent in these episodes and is Dan's wife, but yet doesn't have a per se prominent role within the series.
Yeah, but she stands out to me better, and so I think to me, she has a prominent role in the series, and I like the way they've written her character.
Oh yeah, I certainly like the way that they've written it as well. And I will say I like the beginning of how this episode sort of was able to look back on itself by showing them watching their episode of Restaurant 911 from last season. Just because I think it's because even though of course it was made for a show within the show, that it's also them looking back at themselves and reflecting a little bit. So finally beginning to have sort of that I don't know, that wrapping up a storyline feel that I think should be within these final episodes.
Yeah, I had forgotten that they taped the show, and in my mind, they had already aired the show. So it was nice to see them watching the episode come out.
Yeah, so I definitely look forward to seeing what they do within, let's say, the final 4 episodes of the series that will be coming out, all of which are directed by the same director, Jody Marco and Han. I'm curious as to like how they were shot, if they were all truly back to back or whatever. But I look forward to seeing the rest of the series and how it plays out.
Yep, same here, Brandon. Same here. And everyone, let us know if you're looking forward to seeing the episodes play out. Also,
Yeah, well, Mom, I don't think there's anything else that I can think of. Oh, I will say that this episode brought the return of them actually announcing that they're in front of a live studio audience. I don't know if they weren't last week, but I didn't hear the announcement, but it's back.
all right, that sounds good. Like you said, Brandon, we thank everybody for watching today.
Yes, we definitely do. And stay tuned for our discussion next week.
Yes, have a great day, everybody.
We'll see you then.
Bye bye.